I always tell them.
We are live. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Ken.
You've heard of hair, the hair of your chinny chin chin? Well, that's what we made it by, and not the hair on Dave's chin. All right, welcome everyone to episode 280, and we entitled this, "Why is President Trump so hated? Is there a spiritual component?" And we might not have done that if we didn't know that Facebook would have rejected our ad boost, but hey, it is what it is. So we are on, we did make it on. Dr. Ricks is changing his, or had to get his camera ready, but he should be good to go. And if you want to start us out with a joke or two, that would be great.
So Facebook rejected boosting our message, huh?
Yeah, they didn't like the title too much.
Interesting. I wonder if we had said something like, why it's good to hate the president. Never mind. We have gotten more coverage from them.
They'd have boosted it for free. That thing would have been on CNN if we'd have put that title.
Okay, now jokes. Okay, a couple quick jokes. Jokes, we're getting ready for the jokes.
Where are they?
Dad, a young man said, I'm going to a party. Would you do my homework for me? I'm sorry, kid, but it just wouldn't be right. Well, maybe not, but give it a try anyway. Now, this one is short and cute. Where do otters come from? Outer space.
I didn't get it.
Well, if you didn't get it, that's all right. You got to see the word. How does the man on the moon get his hair cut? He clips it. This one is really cute. What does one hot dog say to the other when they meet? Hi, Frank. Why couldn't the pony talk? He was a little hoarse. Okay, who's the greatest comedian in the Bible? Samson. He brought down the house. Okay, what's the greatest babysitter mentioned in the Bible? We may have told this, so that's worth hearing again. David. He rocked Goliath to a very deep sleep. Okay. This is one that I like it even if you've heard it before. Mrs. Smart was fumbling in her purse when the plate came around for an offering. And surprisingly enough, a large television remote control clattered on the aisle. Obviously, everyone, including the ushers, were curious about what came out of her purse. And they asked her about it. And said, do you always carry your TV remote to church with you, ma'am? She said, no, but my husband refused to come with me this morning. And I figured this is the most evil thing I could do to the bum. Oh, I don't know if we're really on a roll or not. This one's called Church Gossip. This will be our last one. Mildred, who was the church's #1 gossip. I mean, she was a powerful force in the church gossip world. Most people were afraid of her. They avoided saying anything to her about all the gossip because they really feared her. One day she made a mistake, however. She accused Bad Bob, a new member, of being an alcoholic after she saw his pickup truck parked near a pub several hours. So, Bob said, as a man of few words, he stared at her for a long moment, just turned and walked away. He didn't explain, or defend, or deny. He simply said nothing. Later that evening, Frank parked his pickup truck in front of Mildred's house and walked away and left it all night long. Everybody looks stunned. I hope. Well, anyway. Okay. So you all can see and hear me, right?
Yes.
All is well, right, Kelly? Okay.
Starting now.
Before we start on this one, a subtitle for this one is Satan Controls the Nations of This World. And this topic is not a debate of political policies, one way or the other one. And this may be part that is supposition or speculation on our part, but at least it's one worth considering, and that is you always have in American politics, the politics get rough and bitter and the policy debates get sharp, and not always, but let's say frequently in American history, a number of times it's gotten that way and there's friction between the two parties. But I would argue what we're seeing now is a much, 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 much higher level of friction than we've ever seen before. Something that maybe the Civil War was this bad, but in some ways, this may be worse. I guess maybe that can be debated, but certainly not in the modern century or so. We've seen this level of political bitterness. Let me just ask you, Kelly, what do you think of it when you hear me mention it?
I mean, I think that our society is becoming more ruled by emotion rather than any kind of real thinking. And anytime that you allow emotions to rule, you're going to have problems because there's no discussion. You can't have a discussion. And I think that that's how Satan is working, is by having people just go off on emotions. I've seen numerous interviews with people, and they'll be angry and they'll be mad, and you ask them, well, what is it that you're upset about? And they can't tell you. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense, that you would be angry, but you don't know why you're angry unless your emotions are just running out of control. And I think that's kind of what's going on, is that people are, instead of being able to have discussion, being able to debate things without the emotions getting into it like that, controlling that whatsoever. They're just unbridled. And it's building itself up into hate.
Yeah. And the title of the program is probably a little deceptive. It's not about Trump. It's about the reaction to what the country is doing and what the direction and the opposition to. It's not necessarily, what we're going to talk about tonight is not necessarily about him. It's about the reaction to him. And why is it that way? Why is it escalated to the point of, I've never seen the hate for a human being that, for the most part, up until he ran, these people would be seen with him in public. They took his money. They shook his hands. They gave him awards. They thought he was wonderful for the most part. Oprah Winfrey, would she have someone on her show that was a known racist several times and kind of fawn over him when when she interviewed him? Why would she do that if she knew he was a racist? The answer is she wouldn't. So why all of a sudden, since he started running, is there a white hot hate no matter what he says? And that's what I think we want to look at and we try to explain that.
I think she doesn't care about racism one way or the other. She would fawn over him because he was extremely wealthy. And she thought that just meant it was like me. And when she found out that he wasn't just like her, that just totally confused her. Now what do I do? Everybody who's an elite billionaire, and she is as well, well, we're all the same. And when he came out and said, well, I have made this money and accomplished these things, but I'm not like you, they didn't know what to do with that. And likely a lot of these people slept their way to their positions, and maybe he didn't. So it really devalues where they are, you know.
And I don't think it's, I mean, certainly some it's about policy, but it seems to go beyond just policy differences. And maybe I think he's been known for the last 16, 70 years as being against abortion. And, you know, that's probably put him in a bad light with some, but that still wasn't all that bad with most of them. And maybe for years he's talked about us being taken advantage of with trade deals. That didn't even seem to bother most of them. But it seems like something has happened with his becoming president and it's gotten worse, that doesn't seem to fit into the normal political infighting.
Yep. You know, Trump bought Mar-a-Lago and he took all kinds of heat for allowing blacks and Jews to join the club. This was back in the 90s. That's not, I mean, and that doesn't mean anything to the people that hate him so much. It just doesn't make sense on the surface. And if you look deeper into it, I think you figure out what's going on at a high level.
You know, you all probably know this, but Jesse Jackson gave him some awards for working in civil rights to help Black Americans and some others back in the end of the 90s. And the Mar-a-Lago story. But I'm just saying this. I'll bet you people who are, say, 50 and under aren't aware of any of that because the media just doesn't tell people about it. I mean, I don't know. How many of you are aware that Jesse Jackson gave civil rights awards to Donald Trump?
Well, I think we all are. Probably a lot of the public may not be, but we all are.
Also, I was talking to a young man, fairly, enlightful guy. I said, well, Donald, he's from New York. Did you know Donald Trump graduated from the New York Military Academy as a #1 cadet and captain of the baseball team? He said, no, I'm from New York. I didn't know that. Because the media has basically, as part of the hatred, they just haven't covered certain things that, that they could cover.
Yeah. And no matter what he says, no matter what he stands for, no matter what he proposes, it's opposed. It doesn't matter what he supports, it's opposed by all the people in one party and a good number of the people in his own party. So, I mean, it's not just one side against the other. I mean, it's people across the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems like it's getting hotter and hotter.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, people who hate him, who may be listening to this program, may say, well, I don't, they may not see it that way, but it certainly looks to us like there is a spiritual dimension just beyond the average pettiness in Washington.
I know a guy that whenever you bring up, well, Trump did this or he helped that or anything positive, he'll come on and start, getting upset and go, yeah, let's not get upset. Let's just look at this black and white. Sure, he may have done something bad over here, but he did something good over here. We can say that of anybody. And when you finally give him the actual facts, well, he built, I don't know, whatever, a hospital for children. I don't know. His answer is F Trump. There is no way you can get him to say there's anything positive about this guy. If this guy found a cure for cancer and saved his entire family, he'd still hate him.
Yep. He'd say he put doctors and nurses out of work.
Right.
I mean, I'm serious. They would actually do that. I mean, it's to a point of actually. I mean, it just looks insane. The media at large has beclowned themselves since this started. to a point where they don't. I mean, you can't get anything out of them of any value. Almost all of them across the board. I mean, nothing that he's done is good. Nothing. Doesn't make any difference.
What's
and
scary?
It's not necessarily about him. It's just that anybody that's doing what he's doing, because they loved him before. His views, you can listen to interviews from 40 or 30 years ago, and they're the same views he has now on many issues. Didn't change, but they hate him now.
What's scary is I don't think they even care that their credibility is being undermined by their quick trigger to get him. The desire to get him is far outweighs their credibility. And isn't that kind of amazing?
Yep.
Well, the difference is now they can make more money hating him than begging him for it. I think that's the answer, because everybody's asked him for money. And in the past, he's been very generous with his loans. Well, now they get more money to get against him than they could get out of him by begging.
Mm-hmm. That's still kind of that's looking at a small aspect of how they're interacting. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Wages are up. What did we get today? We got news that 300,000 new jobs. When everybody said because of the shutdown we were going to lose jobs, and the exact opposite happened. We've got 100 months of continued job growth, 100 solid months. So unemployment's down. Country is finally recovering from the chaos, the economic troubles of 2008. These are just direct results of his America First kind of,
And I heard something else too. Apparently this past month, I didn't even know it, or whatever it was one of the best months the stock market's had in a while. And it's up, or at least it was up the last time I checked. I know it goes up and down, but which is kind of surprising. Someone said that, and the growth rate last quarter for the economy turned out to be better than expected. And they said Trump knew this yesterday. So when they went in negotiations with China and China's down, that America, or at least it appears at this point, China needs us more than we need them.
Mm-hmm.
Which gives us,
the better we get, the better we do as a country, the more he's hated. Which makes it completely
weird. That sounds. It almost needs to be true.
Yeah, everything he does that makes this country, if he helps to, get rid of ISIS or gets rid of this, no matter what it is, it ain't good enough. They've turned themselves into warmongers because he's pulling out of countries that they wanted us out of years ago. Now all of a sudden we need to stay. He's an idiot for pulling out. So the peaceniks are turning into warmongers if it means they get to hate Trump more. See, no matter what he does, as long as they oppose it, it doesn't matter what it does to them, doesn't matter what it does to their stance on any issue. It means it's the definition of insanity. I mean, they do not, what they're doing makes zero sense. It's totally illogical. They have no reason. And it does. And what my point is, there's a bigger force. I mean, you can get in all the minutia of, well, Trump defeated him and you're not supposed to do that, and all the other little things that are, but I think there's a bigger force at work.
Well, I mean, you've said it.
Yeah.
Nothing makes any sense.
Why don't we pull up our first scripture, Ephesians 6, take a look at that and see what we think.
Okay. Ephesians 6:11. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places.
We think that scripture just basically says what we think our physical world, all the physical politics and back and forth, but what's behind it is spiritual. I've thought this, and probably some of you have too. Satan has got the world in pretty bad shape, but America and a few other places, for various reasons, Satan is restrained to some extent, and our world is better. But is some of that restraint starting to pull back? Now, I heard this one guy on the radio, Christian radios, complaining about things in education. He says, yes, we kicked God out of the schools. Now we're surprised at how bad things are.
You know, a couple of thoughts I have is we get all this attention on the border. And so everybody's worried about the border, and rightfully so. But while that's going on, they're pushing forth this partial birth abortion. Post-birth abortion is being proposed. A couple have offered abortion of a child up to 2 years old. You know, there's a reason they call it the terrible twos. Anytime you want to get rid of that kid, he's two, right?
Right.
How old was Jesus when Herod said, kill all the children? 2.
2 years old.
Moses, 2. Satan doesn't change his story. But while this is going on, they're also pushing this LGBT. This is what Obama's legacy is chopping people's anatomy up. They're pushing the LGBTQAIIA and question mark or whatever.
There's 72 of them. You'll never get there, man.
No, there's not that many letters. So
no.
My point is they spent 8 years pushing that. What they're still doing is they're using the border, they're using all these things in order to continue pushing the homosexualization of our children, because pedophilia is next. And that's where this is going. And incest is next. 10 years ago, Tom DeLay said he read DOJ papers that said this was coming. I shared it on Facebook. People laughed at me and said, oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm looking square at it today. So all of this other stuff is pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Meanwhile, they're chopping your children up, because that's what Satan is about.
I saw it on Tucker Carlson yesterday. He did a pretty good job on it. New York and I guess Virginia, New York's already passed it, and they plotted and screamed. After a child is born alive from an abortion, at least if I understood what he said, and others have said it, the doctor and the patient, you know, the girl, decide whether the baby that was just born alive should be allowed to die. You know, don't do anything to help it stay alive. They call it resuscitate. In other words, they're saying a baby born alive that they didn't want born alive, it's all right to kill it, or, you know, or passively murder it. That's another way of, you know, things you don't do for it so it can't survive that you would normally do. And it was applauded. And Virginia is going to do the same thing. Have you heard that, Kelly?
Yeah, well, actually, the Virginia, they introduced the bill, but it was immediately voted down because currently the Virginia House is Republican controlled. Heard that they're doing redistricting, and that if they go through with it, that will swing the House to Democratic control, which means probably a couple of years they'll have those laws passed in Virginia also.
And while there's 8 states, by the way, that are passing this same kind of law, and while they do it, the people are yelling, due date, due date, due date. So you can kill them as they dilate. As the mother dilates and the baby is about to take his first breath of real air, you can kill that baby. That is demonism. It is evil. And it is the mind of Satan. And they think they're doing it subtly, and they have been. But it's 8 years of Obama setting this up.
Dr. Ricks, you might want to turn your speakers down a little bit. We're getting a little feedback through your. There you go.
Okay, I will turn them down a little bit. Cut down the feedback.
Another thing I read tonight, somebody's proposing that people of the age of 60 and older get no medical care.
Oh yeah, here's the thing. If they have to move healthcare to single payer, once they move healthcare to single payer, all your healthcare comes from the state. That means they can cut it off. They can tell you no. They can tell you to take the pill instead of getting fixed. Worst thing you could do. And I know there's some people that in the church think that we need to have single payer, or some people, you know, Christians that think it's a good idea, but you're not thinking it through.
No, I mean, the whole thing about, you know,
you want the government bureaucrats to have total control of your health.
Yep. If they give it to you, if your health care comes from the state, they can take it away.
And everybody thinks, but free, free, free. I am planning on writing another article on socialism. It's never as free as it appears. You're going to pay in quality of service and higher taxes. I will concede that the more income you make, the more you pay. So people on the bottom may think, well, I'll end up paying less, but it's still going to hurt everybody anyway. We just don't know it.
Yes.
And I know class warfare sounds so attractive. We'll get for the people who got the good jobs and the people with the money. Yeah, it's like it just doesn't work like you think it will.
No, if you think healthcare is expensive now, wait till it's free.
I had a lady in my office yesterday. She's got multiple sclerosis, and she had to go on Obamacare. And her monthly premium is $900 a month, and a $10,000 deductible, single mom.
Wow.
She's worked out a payment plan on the deductible because her meds are so ridiculously expensive as well. And I saw a thing. You see these, like Jesse Waters used to do, the man on the street. Mark Dice does it, and a couple other guys. The guy was asking, do you believe in free healthcare, free healthcare? And everyone said, oh, yeah, yeah. How do we pay for it? And then nobody had any idea. And one lady goes, well, it's got to be in somebody's pocket. Just take it. You just show up like you're arresting an 85-year-old man, with the SWAT team and helicopters. A Navy SEAL team is 5 guys. How many people did it take to get an 80-plus-year-old man?
It was 29 with an amphibian team out his back door in the river back there.
And I think a helicopter overhead.
Yeah, that's a scary old dude.
So if you look at it,
it's to intimidate, but it's terrible.
Go ahead.
He did not seem intimidated.
And the media seemed to love it. Oh, it's great. It's great. CNN thought it was wonderful. Let's go to Daniel 10. These are scriptures we know, but I want to just emphasize the fact that the spirit world controls the nations. And that's where we think a lot of the hate that's being poured into America is coming from. We just can't see the spirit world.
Right. Daniel 10:12. Then he said to me, do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, and behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left alone there with the king of Persia. Now I have come to make you understand what will happen to your people in the later days, for the vision refers to many days yet to come.
And obviously, that wasn't even the point of Daniel, that part of Daniel, just a sidebar. But obviously, a powerful angelic demon was in charge of the Persian Empire. When you read the whole context, Greek Empire and the Babylonian Empire. It took an archangel to get this angel through with the prophetic parts of the book of Daniel, which they didn't want written, obviously. So, and obviously, there must be powerful demons in charge of the great nations of the world today. And that's the spiritual part that we're talking about. Even if you believe some policies, good, bad, and different, we're not so much discussing the policies. And also, we have a little section in here where we said, are they hating this president because he's such a failure? Would you like to answer that question, Ken?
Because he's such a failure?
Yes.
No, they hate him because he's actually accomplishing things that are good for this country.
And they're afraid of toxic male, whatever the word is they're using, toxic masculinity. I love this girl the other day on the news. She said, the biggest problem in the world was white people, and mostly the white male, and we need to do things the way they do in Norway and Sweden. Find me more white people than Norway and Sweden. You can see through those people. You know?
Okay, for anybody that watches us in Norway and Sweden, you can email Dave at.
Actually, I think we do have some people in Norway, but never mind. But Dave, I mean, Ken, would you like to rattle off some of the successes that will kind of surprise people because they probably haven't heard it before?
All right. No, let's see here. Let's see. Unemployment, like I said, lower than any time in my lifetime. Maybe the lowest since after World War II. Coal industry is coming back. Steel industry is coming back. Manufacturing is coming back. Remember when Obama said, what's he going to do? Wave his magic wand? And, well, he's eating a little crow on that one. Let's see. He renegotiated NAFTA for our better. They said he couldn't do that. He renegotiated with Europe and Germany. He even forced Germany to buy their fuel from us and not Putin and Russia. And so I don't know how that benefits Putin. I don't know how he's in Putin's back pocket if Putin and Russia are losing money over this deal. In fact, he's been tougher than any other president on Russia. The left, the left and the media would be beating him up more than anything else, but on Russia. But because he's tough on Russia, they would be beating him up because he's tough on Russia. But they can't do that because they got this storyline that he's in league with Russia because they love the Ruskies. You know, they love Soviets or socialists. So normally they'd be taking his side, but they can't. They've painted themselves into a corner on that one. So, I mean, don't forget, Hillary sold them 20% of our uranium for a couple $100 million. So we know they love the Russians. They love the communists, the socialists. He's putting sanctions.
Everybody note that now some of this happened during the Obama years too, but some of the growth. But in the last 2 years, America has become the #1 producer of oil and natural gas and energy in the entire world. And we still buy oil from places in the world we probably don't like, but America is not dependent. We have enough oil that if they were to cut us off, it'd be to their disadvantage. America would, chug along pretty well. We've got enough oil. And actually, I'm told we have more oil in the ground in places that they haven't even drilled yet because the price isn't worth it. But if we needed to, we could. And think about that. America is the #1 energy producer in the world. That's happened in the last 2 years. Have you heard anybody say anything good about that?
No.
And admittedly, they did do that. What do they when you get an old well to drill again?
Fracking.
Now they did start that during the Obama years. So he didn't. Well, some states blocked it, like New York, but not enough states blocked it. So it helped. It helped that process too, but it's really come on strong. And I believe they built much of the infrastructure, pipelines, and as they get more infrastructure built, our oil and gas prices may even get cheaper. You're like, that's for a shocker.
Yep.
And I believe for any major nation in the world, maybe except for countries that have excess of oil because that's all their economy's got, America has the best energy prices in the world, far and away.
And the jobs are amazing. I know we mentioned this earlier, but then one guy talked about a minute ago that all he does is, no matter what you say, he hates Trump. Came in the other day and he says, the money has fallen on me. I've never made so much money. Yeah, he got away with 22,000 regulations. So people are able to spend their money, invest, and do things that they weren't able to do before. And you're being blessed by this. He just bought a brand new Land Rover or Range Rover. He's buying 8 acres of land to build on. He's got rental properties, on and on and on. All of this has happened in the last couple of years. And when I bring that up, the same answer. It's so dumb. It hurts.
Yeah, I think they do. And some will say, well, the media hated and criticized Reagan, and the media, especially the last 4 years, hated and criticized Bush. but somehow it's much more angry than it ever was before. What do you think, Kelly?
No, it is. I mean, it's like I said, the more we talk about this, the more that keeps coming to my mind is it makes absolutely no sense. There is no sense to it. So, you know, I mean, what's going on? Why are people being so ridiculous? And, you know, there's an influence there.
And unfortunately, we just lost Dr. Ricks.
Was it something I said?
I don't know.
Quick, Kelly, say it to Ken.
You make no sense.
Yeah, all right, I hear you. It just seems interesting. The better we do as a country, the more hate and vitriol and self-beclowning that they do in the media. I mean, if you think of it, and when you were looking at putting this together, it like you said, it makes no sense. So I think when we get done, you'll see why it makes no sense, or why it'll make sense in a bit. Go ahead, Dr. Ricks. We're on Revelation 13:4. I don't know if you're ready for that or not.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready.
All right. All right. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
And Ken brought this point up when we were planning this message. And I'll say something and let Ken say something on it too. If you think about the fulfillment of that part of the prophecy, as long as America is the #1 superpower in the world, that prophecy cannot take place, because it says, who can make war with the beast? Meaning, like Hitler was a beast of a man. Whoever will rule this new Holy Roman Empire in Central Europe, he will be militarily far above anybody else in the world. Right now, if any major country wants to invade another one, the first thing they ask is, what will America do? Because they got to worry about America. I concede that we're not as strong maybe as we had been in some times in the past, but our military is getting better and stronger again, being rebuilt. And America is still a global power.
Yep.
And people just sometimes forget that I don't see how that prophecy can happen as long as America is the #1 superpower. And in some ways, the current administration is very patriotic, pro-military, keep the military strong. The opposite of what we've had in previous years. What do you think, Ken?
Yep, I agree. I think that the reason why, and it makes this, to me, it's about the only way this makes sense, is there has to be a spiritual component to this unreasonable, just this crazy hatred that just waxes over. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about right and wrong. They don't care who gets hurt. They don't care how many people they have to run over. They don't care how many people they have to put in jail, how many lives are ruined, how much money that they destroy of people's wealth through all the processes of the investigation that's going. None of that matters. Only matters is get rid of Trump. It could be get rid of anybody that was doing the same thing that Trump's doing. The fact that it's Trump is not the issue. The fact that they're turning this country back around and undoing the policies that have been going on in this country for 20, 30 years politically, and much further back than that. I think maybe back to 100 years in our institutions, in our learning institutions, and even political institutions throughout the last, maybe, like I said, 100 years or so. This guy is turning that tide, and he's got people supporting that are going to be a problem. They were doing just fine with the last several administrations, moving this country towards the left and towards the no borders, one world kind of kumbaya thing. where they could control the whole planet from a centralized government. And this the last presidential election stopped that dead cold, and it's actually reversing it with the courts, not just the Supreme Court, but with the lower circuit courts. And that, I think, is the problem. It's stopping, and they can't have that. It has to continue. Now, maybe they don't know that in their mind that that's the reason, but that's what they're doing. And I believe that's the reason behind it, is we can't have a strong America and have these prophecies come true.
I think the one thing about Donald Trump that's surprising is that because he's a show business figure from those TV shows he had, and I guess that's in a sense a Hollywood figure, you would not expect this. But in the last few years, he's realigned himself with, I call it, Christian, Bible-believing, whatever you want to call it, conservatives. And on the Christian radio station, they mentioned he's the most pro-friendly Christian president in many years. In other words, he's pressured the deep state regarding getting off the back of Christian. Well, for instance, a man that would put Christian literature in his workroom, and the government really jumped all over him about that. And now that's okay, and he's trying to help Christianity as much as he's able to. He's reduced a number of thousands of abortion. I don't know all the details, but they talk about it on Christian radio, and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. And has been the most according to Israeli news, the most pro-Israeli president in American history. And
right.
Surely that has made him some enemies in the spiritual world.
Yeah, in our time, he's been the most pro-Israel and pro-Christian, even though, think about it, this guy is a billionaire playboy philanthropist that have questionable background, to say the least, the stuff he did. Yeah, he probably paid them off so they didn't talk and tell what he did with them, or what, those women and all that. But the country did not need a mealy-mouthed little choir boy like, what's his name? He just.
We better not name names. We'll get in trouble.
No, I don't.
But I think I know what you mean.
Just name one. Name one of them.
One
of the Bushes ran, and then the other guy who's just running his mouth, he just got elected. For some reason, I can't remember his name.
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney. The country needed a fighter to fight for the people who are tired of this left slide we're in right now. Then he has stopped that. And that's why the white hot hate, even though they may not know why they hate him that much, but I believe it's a spiritual component, and they're just tools.
Yeah, he's fighting for policies that the spirit world does not want to see, and he's more of I guess you'd say a construction New York. I guess he's from Queens, New York, Queens, Brooklyn area, and they're probably not overly polite. You know how you hit me, I hit you back kind of background, which I guess is not that diplomatic, but maybe, like you said, maybe America needs a fighter for certain principles that we haven't had in too many politicians. He's not since Ronald Reagan.
Right. And can you think of another individual on the face of the earth that could withstand what he's going through? I wouldn't even think he could withstand what he's going through unless he's got help taken. I mean, because I don't know if I could take that pounding every day, just nonstop.
I heard on one radio show they said that one of the reasons they put the investigation on his back was they thought it would do to him what it did to the Nixon administration. Now, obviously, these were different times, but basically the Nixon administration ground to a halt as they were investigating them, and everybody was worried about being investigated, and they got nothing done. They thought that would happen to Trump; he'd get nothing done. But actually, in spite of all that, maybe even because of it, we even got prison reform. Now, would you have expected prison reform from a conservative Republican? But we got it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I mean, sentencing reforming. Now, whether it's the best, you can always improve a bill and all that. But that is a, considering the way things are, that kind of surprised me. Didn't it surprise you all? I don't know what's going to happen now, but I do think he's made spiritual enemies because of the direction he's moving in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if I've said this before, but this whole global one world movement that's going on right now, partially, I don't know, this could be true, but what happens every time there is a major war to the super rich people? After the war is over, especially if you're in a losing country, what usually happens to that rich person?
They get richer.
No, they lose their stuff if they're on the losing end of it.
On the losing end, they lose their stuff, right?
They lose their stuff. The rich people don't like losing their stuff. So you see people like Soros and all these multi-billionaires supporting this. I think they just want, just on a very simple surface of it, they just don't want to lose their stuff. I want to keep my stuff. So let's all push this one world issue so there won't be any more wars, which is a nice idea, only it's going to lead to global poverty and hardship and the loss of millions or hundreds of millions of lives when they finally pull this off, because people won't go for, enough people won't go for it. They'll have to deal with them. And by deal with them, I mean, they'll have to get rid of them.
Something these traders don't understand. When they're kissing up to our enemies and making themselves more and more wealthy, should the enemy win, the first one they get rid of is
they're going to turn on. Yes, absolutely.
If that guy's a traitor to his own people, once I have everything, why would I keep him around? He'll be a traitor to me too.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's, if you look at it, if it's the only way what we're seeing has some semblance of making sense, because these people are just shy of foaming at the mouth when this topic comes up. They could be perfectly fine. One second. You've seen the video. Remember when, what's his name in Texas was running? Oh, what the heck's his name?
Ted Cruz.
What'd you say?
That
No. Just last.
Ted
Cruz. There's a video on YouTube. There's a video on YouTube. You go look at it. There's this guy grabbing Ted Cruz signs and pulling them out of the ground. And initially, he's just like, I hate Ted Cruz. And he was kind of almost stable, just doing stupid stuff. All of a sudden, he flips into this crazy, he's screaming and hollering and carrying on like, he's possessed. This just doesn't make sense. There was a guy here not too long ago that walked in to buy some oil or whatever you call it from a vape shop. The guy started out okay, kinda, the cashier. By the end of it, he was in a tirade, throwing stuff, screaming, hollering, cussing, every word come out. Like he wasn't in control of himself. You see this more and more. And it just looks to me that there's more of a spiritual aspect to this, because if there's not, none of this makes any sense at all.
Let's go to our next scripture. I do see what you mean. It's scary out there. Like we mentioned, the evil media turned the French Revolution into a bloodbath.
Oh, buddy, did they? All right, Revelation 13:4. We didn't read this, right? All right,
we didn't read 2 Thessalonians 2.
Oh, we already did this one?
Oh no, Mark 3:20. Did we read Mark 3:24 yet?
There we go.
No, we haven't.
If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand.
The only reason I put those two scriptures juxtaposition about America, about the beast, being the number one power in the world and a house divided. If you were Satan and you wanted to clear the deck for whatever mischief you had up ahead, you would not want a strong, I'll call it, at least nominal Christian, Bible-believing Protestant power being the number one military power in the world, would you?
No.
And that's why, if America is divided, maybe this country can kind of, like the French Revolution, that just destroyed France.
Yep.
Now, I know Napoleon rescued it with a military dictatorship, but still, it didn't work out the way they thought it should work out.
Right. And if you think about it, this latest movement has been, like I said, in working for at least a century. And this has been ongoing if you go back to when the country was formed, to when this country got its birthright. When we became a country, it started before that, and it's continuing. It's just, it worked up heavy till the Civil War. I don't know. Everybody talks wonderful about Lincoln now, but you know, he was hated by half the country when he was president. They celebrated his death in headlines in newspapers. They put in there, you know, he's dead. It's a wonderful thing. They're announcing that this, you know, only if we hope it's true. This was in newspapers. If you look at some of the newspapers from back then, it looks like some of the insanity we're seeing now. They were so happy that he was executed. I mean, what do you think would happen today if something happened to the president?
Oh, CNN would be, they'd probably be La La Land.
Oh, but they'd be, yeah. I don't know if they'd show it publicly, maybe, but they'd be blowing
off screen. Maybe I'm wrong.
They'd be blowing speakers and throwing glitter in the air. They'd be just, you know, popping balloons. It'd be like a New Year's Eve party.
Yeah. I think after Lincoln died, then they said, wait a minute, what a great man he was, saving the Union. You know, all of a sudden they realized after he was gone, then they realized, whoa, but that's another story. What a great man he was. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2, because these are the kind of things that are happening to the American people right now with the media that's out of control.
All right, 2 Thessalonians 2:9. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, God will send them strong delusion that they should believe the lie.
Because they did not love the truth. Are we learning to love the truth?
Yeah, there is no truth today. You'll watch them. They'll lie to your face on these programs. They'll lie, and they never give up the game. They never give up the scam, but they'll keep lying, and they'll lie. The next person will pick up the lie, and they'll keep lying, and they all have the same talking point for the lie all day long. And it doesn't matter what you show them. You show, look, this cup is orange, and they'll swear it's blue till they drop, you know, till they die pronouncing it. It doesn't matter. They'll never give up the game. They'll never give up the lie.
Yeah, think about this. We read the Bible, and we get a total different idea out of it from other Christian people who are probably good people. I'm not saying anything bad, but we discern the words differently because we have a different spirit in us of discernment. But when they hate you, they have a spirit, a different discernment too, a different spirit for their discernment, which there lies your battle. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against evil spirits, you know, wicked spirits in high places. They read something and it makes them angry because they discern it as something against what they think is good. They're good as killing children and chopping people's anatomy up to make them appear to be something they're not. And our discernment is life is important, and obedience to God is important, and change in our lives is important. And we can't say just read it's the Sabbath day. Okay, it's Saturday. What are you doing this Saturday? Oh, I thought I would go to Disney. We are moved. The spirit of discernment in us moves us to act upon keeping that day sacred, sanctified, and set apart. So we have to realize that we can be as upset with them as we want, but until the spirit in them that is discerning, helping their mind discern what it comes up with, is changed, there's nothing we can do but live our lives and stay steadfast and unbending in the truth.
So true.
Yeah, we need to hold on to the truth no matter what, because they're going to try and bend the truth. They try every day to convince you there's another truth. Let's go this route. gender fluidity or gender, you can change your gender. All right. That is the thing they're pushing now, right? Gender fluidity. Today you could be whatever you want to be. Tomorrow you could be something completely different. You know why they're doing that? It's not because they supposedly care about these people and it's helping them. The reason they're doing that is because if you can take anything as steadfast, as easy, as black and white, as gender, 2X chromosomes female, X and Y chromosome male, that is burned in stone. If you can take that and make it so that it can be questioned, so that it can be anything they want it to be, if you can take a truth that is that undeniable and twist it and destroy it and change it to be 72 different or more possible genders, then everything is phony. Nothing is real. They can convince you anything is false. And if they can convince you everything is a lie or everything can change, then whatever they tell you is the truth.
Here's my
game. It's a mental practice to destroy the truth and replace it with whatever they want the truth to be to you. George Orwell, call your office.
Here's the answer here. I love that people say I'm non-binary. And I go, well, my brother's bisexual. They go, I support that. So which is it? There aren't two sexes. Well, he's bisexual. I'm all for that one. Which is it? That's called confusion. What they're doing now, I'm told, in a lot of the sports is because these guys are getting the operation and they're harming the females, is that they're making them do a chromosome check now. So you have to compete with what your chromosomes are, not what you appear to be when I take a picture. And that's changing things.
Right. Right now they're having, we're in the middle of this. We're beginning of this. So now they're having trouble. They got the, and you'll notice this too. The woman at the gym a few years ago that didn't want the guy in the gym with her because he was identifying as a woman. She's the one who lost her gym membership and was thrown out.
Right.
So they're running into, and she could have been a feminist, whatever. They're running into their own stuff now. We got women getting beat up at these MMAs by guys claiming to be women. We got women on steroids beating women because they're juicing, but it's okay if they're juicing because they want to be a guy. They're running into their own stuff that they're promoting, and some people are having a problem with, but it's interesting to watch them fight each other. They're basically biting their own tail now. It's interesting to watch, but that's still all kind of down in with how this is all playing out. We need to look at it from the level of someone who's been called and someone who knows the Bible and someone who is watching this play out in front of them. I don't know if it's a good idea if we get drug into every little, this politician's better, that politician's better. I think it's good to stand back and watch it play out. I think we need to be aware of it all. People out there say you shouldn't talk about politics. Well, I'm sorry. How can you be a watchman if you're not paying attention to the political world where all this stuff is going on?
Let's go to Isaiah 59. Let's look at that real bit, because these are all interrelated, but this is a very interesting scripture when you think about it.
Isaiah 59:15. So truth fails, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. Then the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no justice.
I'm going to use the Covington High School kids as an example. As far as we can tell, they actually did nothing wrong. They were there on an anti-abortion rally, a rally for life, to a Christian school. And there's some radicals push into the middle of their formation while they're waiting for the buses to take them back to Covington, and they get attacked and hated on so badly they had to close the school for 2 days because of bomb threats and other threats. In other words, if you stand for some good things, you become a target. scary, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I see the media doing that, looking for targets to attack. Let's go to Matthew 4:8. But I know people say, well, those kids should have dispersed when the radicals moved into the middle of their formation. I suppose, but still, the quickness by which they want to destroy those kids that's sickening.
Yep. Again, the devil took him up on an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. He said to him, all these things I will give you if you will fall down and worship me.
This is the devil's world. That's kind of the point we're making. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2. We're almost near the end, but I want to make a point.
All right. And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time.
The only question I would ask, if I could talk to Paul, who wrote this letter. Paul, of course, had preached to those people, and they probably heard other things he preached. But we actually didn't get all the details they got. But I assume Paul is saying that the devil is running this world, but God is restraining him in various places, in various areas, and various topics. And clearly, I think the devil has been restrained. Otherwise, America wouldn't have the blessings it has now. And I think we should pray for God to restrain the devil more, because I just see a bad trend of hating coming on.
Yep. To me, it seems like there's been a pause for some reason or another. Don't know what that reason is, but there seems to be that things have slowed from, we were on a fast track to the kind of the downfall and the globalization of the world and the downfall of this country. And it seems to be put on pause for a reason. I don't know why, but there seems to be what is happening.
The devil's probably not happy about it. At least that's what we think. He's not too happy about it. And we need to ask God to, even if we don't agree on policies like physical barriers on the border or all kinds of others, the level of hatred is just outrageous. There are places you go that if you would express your true opinion, they wouldn't say, oh, we disagree with you. They might beat you to a pulp.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because you see these people talking about all the hatred that Trump causes, the hatred and the attacks and the vitriol and the physical contact always comes from their side, even though they're the ones that are saying Trump's causing all the hatred. They're the ones doing it all, but they're pushing it off on someone else. You know, that's another thing they do. Because you wear that hat, if you wear a mega hat on your head, well, that is equal to, they're trying to equate that now to a KKK hood or the rebel flag. And so, and by doing that, they're saying, look, this is an attack on me because it's offensive. So I can physically respond, and that's okay. That's what they're doing. They're setting us up for that. They're saying, well, because yours is offensive and that's offensive speech and that's hate speech, because you have that. Now it's okay for me to hit you with a bike lock on a chain or to attack you or to do whatever I can do to you. It's okay because I've been hurt.
I think Kelly should respond to that because his governor has recently been spotted in the KKK outfit.
Yeah, I've seen that.
First, let me say he is not my governor.
You live in Virginia?
Virginia?
I live in South Virginia, which is not part of Northern Virginia.
And I don't remember a North and South Virginia. I remember a West Virginia and a Virginia. Now, is he the governor of West Virginia?
Give it a little more time, and you will see a North and South Virginia.
I'm saying right now, I'm seeing he's not my president. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
What always bothers me is you see these talk shows on Fox, and usually the guy who's speaking more truth will bring up a good point. The guy from often from the very progressive side, they don't respond to the point. Oh, well, you're right about that. Well, we ought to reconsider. They just keep pounding out their talking points as if they didn't hear it, or the truth is pushing them further into error. It's like truth is lying in the streets and they don't want to see it, they don't want to hear it. It's attack, or whatever their talking points are. And I think it's just frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's why I don't watch them anymore. I can't. Every now and then I'll watch the Fox News Sunday. I can take about 5 minutes of it before I shut it off, or I'm going to lose a nice TV one of these days.
But some of those guys with a smarmy grin that I think, oh me, I can't listen to this clown. Truth is the last thing he wants to even think about. And I guess that's a bad attitude on my part. Let's go to our final scripture.
All right. Proverbs 16:27. An ungodly man digs up evil, and it is on his lips like a burning fire. A perverse man sows strife, and a whisperer separates the best of friends. A violent man entices his neighbor and leads him in a way that is not good. He winks his eye to devise perverse things. He purses his lips and brings about evil.
And don't you kind of see the media and others are pushing us toward more and more evil? Let's see. And the final scripture, did we put that one up there?
I thought that was it.
Oh, did we get 16:25 in? Maybe we did. Don't sweat it.
Yeah, there was a way that seems right to. Yeah, we did that right.
Yeah, that's okay. It's like you could almost sense socialism. When you read the utopia that socialism would create, you think, oh, wow. You know, everything, we won't need money. Everyone will share. Everything will be wonderful. And it does sound good. It's just that it does not work.
No. You know,
good, it just won't work.
If you've ever, in a lot of companies where they like to do seminars and training classes, and especially a larger company, they'll take, and they'll typically at least once in your life, you'll have gone through this kind of perspective training. And when they start the program out, they usually have a nice slideshow up there. And what they'll do is they'll start with a picture up there. The picture, the one they used for the one I saw was a chicken pecking at some corn on the ground. And then the next slide, you pan back, and that chicken is in this big barnyard, and there's other chickens and so forth. Then they pan back again. It turns out that chicken is in a picture, right? So now you see a picture frame. Then they pan back again, and now that picture frame is on a wall in a house. And then they keep doing this. The wall turns out to be more of the picture. Anyway, they do it until they eventually pan out, and you can see the earth. And now what they do is they explain to you, look, this is the perspective. They'll say, you see the company and the problems and the things we deal with every day from this point. Maybe if you're low on the pole, you see the chicken picking at the corn. And then they'll say, well, at my position, I see the picture frame, and my boss sees it from this far out. And then they get to the CEO of the company, and they see it, the whole picture, and so forth and so on. I think it's real easy to get caught up in these little battles. Yes, I do watch them. I do keep an eye on things about them, and I see them just to get a bigger picture of the whole. But if we spend too much time looking at the smaller picture, we kind of lose focus on what the big picture is and who's running the show and what's going on. Did I put you to sleep, Dr. Rex?
Yeah. No. I know what you're saying. Those seminars, I've sat in many of those. Never mind.
But that's what they do. They want to show you, look, you only see this and we see this. Well, I think we as Christians called out of this world need to see the big picture, And we can even keep that in mind when we're watching these people and we're dealing with them,
And usually you paint this great picture and you hope it works that way. But with real people, certain utopian things just cannot work. and a lot of these things that the world pushes just will not work. But the main thing is, we want to reduce strife in America. And the talking heads are pushing strife that might just consume this whole nation and division. And I'm just saying, my final thought is we should pray for a reasonable level of unity and peace. What do you think, Dave?
Well, absolutely. And we're told to do that. And the first way to do that is pray thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, in the name of Christ, and that he returns soon. Because the only way we're going to have unity and peace is a few years ago, my wife said something. I was pretty impressed with her. She said, the president, I won't mention Obama by name, is guilty of blasphemy because he said, I am going to create world peace. She said, the only one who can create peace is the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. So when they come out and say, I'm going, well, at the end of my 13 years as presidency, there will be total peace in the entire world. I'm going to bring peace into outer space and to alien. Then that's blasphemous, you know? And so when we pray, we should pray for peace and our leaders are protected. Even the bad leaders, pray that they come to proper discernment so that we can have unity. But the only way that's going to happen is that Christ come and his will be done on this earth.
Remember that comment. The oceans will no longer rise.
Yeah.
If anybody ever had a Messiah complex, go back and watch that speech.
The oceans will no longer rise. Actually, the oceans aren't rising. Anyway, that's another story. Did you know that Al Gore predicted Manhattan would be underwater by the year 2015?
Well,
somebody brought it up and the oceans in the Pacific would be up 4 feet.
That newest senator just predicted that in 12 years, all life will be dead. So,
oh no, did she say it?
Yeah, she did.
It must be.
You got to think about something. If they really believe that, they're very dangerous. If they believe that, that means they'll stop at nothing to prevent it, which is dangerous.
It is. By the way, next week. And you know, as we pray for peace and unity, or as much as we can hope to get, we're going to go back to Ephesians 2, 8, 9, and 10, and a few other verses. And we're going to look at the whole issue of, do those passages mean that that what we do plays no part in our Christian life or our salvation? Because our people will say what we do plays no part. And also, I think we need to understand grace deeper than, get deeper and deeper into it, because I think it's one of the keys to understanding the Bible. Next week, if we can do it, that's what we'll do.
All right. Sounds good. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Appreciate it. And we'll hope to see you again here next Sabbath. Hopefully everyone has a wonderful remainder of their Sabbath. And try to stay warm if you're in a cold area like we are up here. So good night, everyone. And we'll see you all again next week. If I can find.
Good night.
We're happy you could make it. So glad you are here, and hope that we've been able to make God's word more clear. Until next time, may God be with you in everything you try. But for now, till next week, we have to say goodbye.